My name is Alexa Eisenbarth, and I'm the Associate Pastor here at First United Methodist Church of Olympia. We are in the midst of a series of devotions on the book Life of the Beloved by Henri Nouwen. There's a first video, so if you haven't watched that yet, we'll invite you to go back and watch that one. And it is an introduction to what we're going to be doing for the next few devotions. In that video, we talked about the path, the fourfold rhythm that Henri Nouwen invites us into as an antidote to the temptation of self-rejection. And this fourfold rhythm comes from the institution of communion, of the Eucharist, and it is 4 words: taken, blessed, broken, and given. So today we're going to be talking about that word taken. Taken, in my imagination and cultural experience, reminds me of the word, the movie Taken, the one, about a kidnapping. And so I don't want you to think about kidnapping, but I do want you to think about the word taken as being picked up, scooped up, chosen, meaning that you are in the palm of God's hands. That word chosen is a bit loaded for me. And for many, I think. Chosenness has meant you are either in or out of the world of God. To be chosen means you're in, and that means essentially that there are people who are out, that there are people out of God's love. The mystery of our faith is that being chosen does not mean that anyone else is excluded. Chosen means that God has seen you and acknowledged you for all of your uniqueness. Let me share how Henri Nouwen puts it. When I know that I am chosen, I know that I have been seen as a special person. Someone has noticed me in my uniqueness and has expressed a desire to know me, to come closer to me, to love me. When I write to you that as the beloved, we are God's chosen ones, I mean that we have been seen by God from all eternity and seen as unique, special, precious beings. As a pastor, when I preside over communion, I take the bread. Taking the bread does not mean that I don't choose the cup or don't wash my hands in advance, but in that moment I am taking the bread. It means in that moment I'm paying special attention to the bread. So I want you to think of that word taken in that way, of the reverence and the holiness, the sacredness of the Eucharist, of communion. To be taken is to be selected, to be considered, to have special attention and focus and care. And there's a communion we imbue meaning. Right? We, in this ritual, we decide together that this bread means something, that it has special significance, that in this moment I am taking the bread and naming it as something particularly special and holy. So we are taken in that same way. We are in the palm of God's hands, taken, considered, where God decides, chooses to love us, to consider us special, sacred. God gives special attention to us. We are in the palm of God's hand. Each one of us, each one of you, is beloved. Each one of you, each one of us, is taken, chosen for your own uniqueness. We are not all the same loaf of bread, and yet God takes us into the palm of his hands and considers us, acknowledges us, and notices us for our uniqueness. No loaf of bread is the same, and yet it can always be the body of Christ. Capitalism tells us that things that are finite are more valuable. Gold, diamonds, things that are rare to come across are more valuable. If there's an exclusive number of people that can have something, then that is inherently more valuable. It becomes more expensive. We attribute a higher price, a higher cost for that item because there's only so many. So exclusivity in our world makes things more desirable. VIP rooms, right? Anything where only a few can get in, that is what is desirable. That is what is valuable. What we decide is good, is something to aim for. We want to be one of the people who are in, knowing that that means that most people are out, that they don't get to experience that thing. This is not the logic of God. Being chosen does not mean that you are in and others are out. It means that there is an abundance of choice, and God always chooses you. God always chooses us, chooses our neighbor. There is free choice that God has, and God chooses you. God takes you, considers you, acknowledges you. One of the ways that I have experienced this, have experienced takenness, or the hopes for being taken or chosen, is in my experience of going through the ordination process in the United Methodist Church. One of the things that I decided at some point was that I wanted them to ordain me. I didn't want them to ordain the projection of the person that I want them to think I am. I wanted them to ordain me. And it was a choice that is surprising that I made. I guess I don't really know where that came from. But I think maybe it came from a pattern of self-rejection. I, at the beginning, wanted them to see me as someone who was competent and wise and someone who was called to this, and that it felt like to prove that I needed to project some sort of image of myself that they wanted to see, an image that they might affirm, that they might find acceptable. Because I knew in my own lived experience that I was not someone who was perfect for ordination. I could see all the parts of myself. I spent 100% of my time with me, and I saw all of the parts that I found unflattering, all of the parts of myself that seemed not worthy of the call I had received. So at some point, this was unmanageable. And I made the decision that if I was going to be ordained, I wanted to be ordained. I wanted them to ordain me rather than a projection of myself. Because if I was ordained in the projection of myself, then the ordination would never really be mine. It would never have been really upon me. That I couldn't claim it for myself. We know, though, that no other human can fully know us. No one can know in full our inner world. They might see our behaviors or hear our voice, but no one is going to be in your inner world. No other human can know your internal life. So their affirmation, the Board of Ordained Ministries affirmation, the bishop's affirmation, the affirmation of my colleagues in ministry, could never fully tell me, you are worthy. All of you is ordained. All of you has been blessed and is loved and accepted, because they can never know it. They can never know the fullness of me. I wonder if you feel this way in other areas of your life, maybe in romantic relationships or friendship relationships, that there will always be a part that the other person can't know. I wonder if you wonder whether, if they knew it, would they love it? So the affirmation we seek from other human beings, which is completely normal, The affirmation we seek from other human beings will always ring hollow in some way. There will be something in us that says, I don't quite know if I can trust it, because other people can't see all the parts of me. I can't know or test whether or not you'll accept it, because I cannot give it to you. Right? There is something within us we cannot give to other people. It is ours alone. So would they? We can't know. Here's the line. If you knew the real me, would you still want me? Would you still choose me? Would you still take me? I wonder if this line runs through your mind too. So I was ordained. A group of people said yes to me. They decided to take me. But there are other moments and other experiences in which we're rejected by other people, by institutions. And when this happens, it is even more painful, because the parts you can give to someone else, the parts you can show to someone else, someone said no to. Someone decided not to take, to choose, to consider, to affirm, to declare sacred, holy, marvelous. So when we are rejected in some way, when the choice is not made, when we are not chosen or taken, we can do two things. We can either go to that place that Henri Nouwen said of self-loathing. I must not be worthy of it. I must not be worthy of it. Or we can go to a place of arrogance, which is also a form of self-rejection. I think it often sounds like, at least for me, I'm too good for that place anyway, or that person, or that relationship. And both of them are self-rejection. Both of them don't quite tell the truth about things. So what is the antidote when this comes up? When we are rejected or not chosen, or when we are chosen and we doubt our full place in it, when we doubt that if they really knew me, if they had that part of me that they can't see or know, would they love me? Would they still have me? The doubt, even when you're in places of affirmation, even when you're in positions of power or positions you've sought for, or relationships that you have sought out, there is the seed of doubt. Would they really love me? So either rejection or in those seeds of doubt, what is the spiritual path? What is the practice that we can do that serves as an antidote to these things? So Henri Nouwen says this: first, tell the truth about the world. Henri Nouwen says that the world is manipulative, controlling, power-hungry, and destructive. So we ask ourselves, when we tell the truth about that, when we tell the truth about the systems in the world, especially institutions we're seeking affirmation from, do I want to be chosen by that force? Do I want to be chosen by that machine, by that power in the world? And do I trust that force to tell me the truth about me? Can it tell the truth about me? Do I trust its voice? So first, we tell the truth about the world. And then second, we gather community and foster relationships around us that remind us of our belovedness, of our chosenness, of our takenness, of being the taken one, the one in the palm of God's hand. Third, we celebrate. We celebrate our own takenness. We acknowledge and give thanks for the moments in which our takenness is affirmed. We give gratitude for the relationships in which we are reminded of our belovedness. And we acknowledge that that is the truth. We are God's beloved. We are in the palm of God's hand. And when we celebrate it, we become more and more conscious of it. It becomes a part of our consciousness that we are the beloved ones. And then what flows out of that, of becoming aware of our own belovedness, of becoming conscious of it, that it becomes our inner voice, is we cannot help but remind others of their takenness, right? Of their belovedness, of God choosing them, holding them in the palm of God's hand. When we accept our own belovedness, our own uniqueness and specialness, and trust that God delights in us, then we can't help but see the belovedness of others and trust that God delights in them. Sometimes for me, it's easier to trust in God's delight for others than for myself. So this may be backwards for you, but perhaps it might flow the other direction, right? Perhaps you acknowledge the belovedness of other people, and in doing so, you might begin to trust that God holds you in that same belovedness. So when we do this, we embrace the abundance of belovedness. We don't buy into the story that says that things that are finite are more valuable. God's belovedness, God's choice of us, God's taking of each one of us is not finite. God's love is infinite, and it is still inherently, deeply valuable. I'll leave you with a scripture from Matthew chapter 12. It's from Jesus' baptism. God says, a voice comes from heaven. God says, "Here is my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, with whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, and he will proclaim justice to the Gentiles." I want you to hear this once again as a word to you. Here is my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, with whom my soul is well pleased.